You are listening to Season 3 of Black Girl Missing, a podcast that covers stories of black girls who were reported missing when they were under the age of 18. When black girls go missing, their cases are severely underreported in mainstream media. We want to shift the narrative. We invite you to listen, learn, and do whatever you can to help us bring as many girls home as possible. Due to the sensitive and sometimes graphic nature of these cases, we advise you to use caution when listening.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Black Girl Missing. I'm Nikki.
I'm Asa.
And I'm Feminista Jones. Today we have a special summer episode for you ahead of season 4, which we will be bringing to you this fall. Sometimes we do special episodes related to women who are older than our general demographic, but we feel that it's really relevant and pressing for us to cover. And so today we are going to bring you a special episode covering the disappearance of Carlee Russell. And if you haven't heard of her, she's been talked about a lot on social media. So we wanted to jump in with that. I'm going to turn it over to Asa, who is going to kind of give us a timeline of events, and then we're going to jump right in as we usually do, giving our thoughts and our opinions on this.
All right. So I'm first going to go with the original timeline of what we knew as of this past Monday. I got it from The Root, and it's the detailed timeline of the mysterious disappearance of Carlee Russell. Thursday, July 13th, 8:20 p.m. She leaves work from a business at the Summit in Birmingham and heads to a restaurant in the Colonnade to pick up a food order. At 9:34 p.m., Carlee calls 911 while driving on I-459 South near mile marker 11 to report a toddler wearing a diaper walking on the side of the highway. Between 9:34 and 9:36 p.m., Carlee calls her sister-in-law about the toddler and says that she's pulling over to check on the child. Sometime during that conversation, the family member lost contact with Carlee, only hearing her scream, and then the cars passing on the interstate. The phone line remained open. The police arrived 5 minutes after being dispatched and found Carlee's vehicle, along with her phone, Apple Watch, purse, and wig outside the car. On Friday, July 14th, 1 p.m., Hoover Police Department holds a news conference releasing details of where Russell was last seen and what she was wearing. Authorities say a single witness reported seeing a gray vehicle with a male with a light complexion standing outside of Russell's vehicle. Crime Stoppers offer a $5,000 reward for her safe return, and an anonymous donor offers a further $20,000. At 2:18 p.m., Russell's family and friends hold a vigil in Hoover's Lake Wilburn community, per Fox 6 News. 4:06 p.m., Alabama Law Enforcement Agency issues a missing person advisory, and a search team is scheduled to scour the ground where Russell was last seen on Saturday at 8 a.m.
I
At
want to
9,
pause real quick. Wait, why did it take that long?
see, I was waiting till I finished the timeline to start pointing out some things
Okay,
that
I'm
I was
sorry.
seeing.
You know,
There was a couple
I
more
had some
things.
questions. I
Because
had to
I
pause.
too have questions.
Okay, well, you know what? Keep it going then. That's my bad. Keep it going.
All right. Where was I? Okay. Where the heck was I? Oh. 9:45 p.m. Local news releases a traffic camera video from I-459 showing Russell's vehicle with its hazard lights on, slowing down on the shoulder near the 11-mile marker. Saturday, July 15th, 10:44 p.m., Hoover's 911 center receives a call that Russell returned home by foot. Police and Hoover fire medics responded to the scene to assess Russell and transported her to a local hospital for evaluation. 11:30 p.m., Hoover Police Department issues a release on Russell being located. Around 4 p.m., Hoover Police Department issues a press release with everything known about Russell's disappearance thus far. Authorities said more details are expected to be released after the next few days. The release also said the police were able to retrace nearly all of Russell's steps until the point she went missing. Her family and boyfriend also issued statements on her return. And that was the original timeline that we know of, the general public knew of, and as of about Monday.
Okay, so far we have a case where there is cause for concern.
Correct.
Straight up, that's just the information that we have. A woman appears to go missing. She's 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
Young woman appears to be missing, called 911, called her family, giving a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm thinking sex trafficking,
Mm-hmm. As
right?
many
Like
people
that's
did,
at
automatically
this
went to.
point, right, at this point I'm thinking some elaborate scheme. We
Mm-hmm.
keep hearing about people, scheming to kidnap people and catch them and things like that. So I'm thinking maybe she fell prey to something like that, right, based on
Right.
everything that you just said.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it would seem like to me, and it's not unreasonable to
Right.
think that.
Because
You know,
we've know of stories where people prey on the kindness of strangers, particularly women, when it comes to small children.
Right,
you
right.
know what my initial thought was, before any information really came out, when it was, the car stopped on the side of the road, she went missing, no trace. My first thought was somebody snatched this girl off the side of the road,
Mm-hmm.
and because it was a black woman, nobody is going to talk about it, mention it. It won't be on the news, and whoever
Mm-hmm.
snatched her can get away with it, and it's fine.
Correct.
Right,
Except
because there's
that
no real
didn't
value.
right,
Right. Because that's
Hmm.
what we've seen over and over again.
right.
Right.
But
Okay.
then that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
This was an anomaly that nobody could have predicted because it doesn't really happen.
I think.
So,
Go ahead. I'm
oh,
sorry.
go on.
Go
So I
ahead.
think before we get into the further details, I want to discuss the social media reaction that we saw when she originally went missing and then when she came home, before all these extra details came out from the most recent press conference. The thing that we noticed was there was almost an immediate reaction to of people saying that they didn't think anything bad had happened to her. Like that was a knee jerk reaction. There was an automatic assumption of malfeasance on her part.
Right.
There were theories being thrown about that were taken as fact when we only had bare bones skeleton information. And the way people started to come at people that were concerned and say that we were being duped, that we were foolish, that we shouldn't believe any black women just because. There was no cause for people to actually think, oh, this didn't happen. She made it up.
Yeah. And you know what? I have not been as active on social media lately outside of, some Facebook groups. Just because it's just too many places to go, and I've just been a bit overwhelmed by it. And then just kind of, I don't know, I feel like, Asa, you've been saying, and I really have taken this up. Like humans have gone feral. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're just since the pandemic, people are just losing their minds everywhere. And there, when the way I started seeing some people, the things that I caught, I saw people, saying stuff like that, and I was just like, immediately thinking, this is why we do what we do, because even with all the information as it was presented just now, it sounds like any of the stories that we have covered over the last 3 seasons, right? Like there's justified cause reasons, and to believe that something bad happened, but people immediately were suspicious. And I started paying attention because I saw people that I, follow or people that I know commenting on this case. And I was just like, well, what is this? What happened? And I'm, hearing people say, well, I hope she is missing. And I hope something really did happen to her because, oh my gosh, like if she's just, lying or whatever. And I was just like, what about what we know so far has you questioning anything other than the fact that she's Black?
Exactly. And then when she did return home, the consensus I gathered was people did not want a happy ending. They did not want her to be found safely. They did not want her to be able to come home on her own volition. They wanted a gory true crime case.
They
Yeah,
wanted another.
and
They
that's the
wanted, a,
problem.
they wanted another Toyin Salau.
Yeah, or
Yes.
Gabby Petito.
Yeah,
They
Yes.
wanted something salacious, right?
something
Mhm.
And
dramatic and something to like really salivate over.
Right.
yeah, and I think I saw who was it? Phil Lewis. He said something about we are too true crime obsessed, and we could talk about that because we run we have a true crime podcast and
Right.
Mhm.
understand, but we often talk about how we do things a bit differently. We're not here kind of gushing over the suspense of the gory details and things like that. We are doing just as we are doing right now, trying to like piece together things and offer a different perspective. But people were trying to figure this out in real time, and I started to think about that. I was like, with all of the true crime stuff out, not just the podcast, but also the documentaries and things like that. Netflix is doing things on, Jeffrey Dahmer. We get Heaven's Gate stuff, Jim Jones. We get all of this stuff that people are just, there's memes about, don't trust her if she falls asleep to true crime podcasts and things like that. Like we've
Mhm.
really kind of plugged into that. And I think that people were trying for that this time, and that was like causing me a lot of concern.
Yes. And then this overwhelming feeling that she owed people her story immediately. Uh can the woman like be checked out by a doctor first? Can her family speak to her first? Why are we jumping to her needing to get on Instagram live and tell a harrowing story? Why do you feel that your thoughts and prayers, if you gave them at all, um, supersede her and her family's right to privacy, to grieving, to figuring out emotionally what's going on and where to move, how to move forward?
Watching people say, well, we prayed for her. She owes us an explanation. And
Hmm.
I mentioned this on, I think, Facebook. There are white women who will go missing or white girls who go missing and then they are found however long later. And sometimes you don't hear from them for decades. They don't talk about it. And once they do, they might have a little lifetime deal. They might have, a Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer special. They might have a book deal. There might, they've optioned their story. If I'm going to be re-traumatized, at least hit my hand. Shit. So
Right.
regardless of whether
And
Listen, yeah, go ahead, go
regardless
ahead.
we,
of whether she was missing because she like tried to leave her life or if something happened to her, watching people take on this vile, nasty, negative energy towards a black woman immediately. The girl was barely missing 2 days. People could
mhm.
not wait to like sink their teeth into her. And it just really disgusted me. Like, I have been very upset about this. She's 25, she's young, but I've been 25 before. We've all been 25 before. When
Mhm.
you are at that age and you are trying to like get your adult on, like you're trying to like get your shit together.
Mhm.
I can't think of anybody who would leave everything in their life, their car running, their phone, Apple Watch, all of that, just sitting on the side of the road for like
Mhm.
shiggles. like just to be playing. And so
Right.
for people to immediately go to, oh, like, I mean, making memes, like, oh, she's a Jussie
Mhm.
Smollett.
Mhm.
It's a hoax. It's a this, it's a that. I found that very interesting because I'm like, y'all believe all the wrong shit from all the wrong people all the fucking
Mhm.
time. You don't blink, not once.
Right.
But you
And then
can't suspend disbelief enough to think maybe a black woman is being harmed, or maybe there's something semi unexplainable happening that you may not be privy to, or that is not out
mhm.
in the public, eye yet. I'm disgusted. I'm very disappointed at a lot of the people I've seen that I have rapport with or I have personal relationships with, seeing how they're reacting and seeing the things that they're saying. I'm like, I don't even know you. I can't possibly know you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're
Mhm.
talking about how much you
I
Right.
love
had to
my
unfollow. I unfollowed
Oh,
people on Facebook that, and you
absolutely.
know how small my Facebook is. It's like people
Mhm.
that I know in real life,
Yeah.
And I had to disconnect from folks because I was like, I can't believe this.
Yes. And then we have to go over
I
the
love your
cherry picking
podcast.
of
I
information.
listen to your podcast, but you're making fun of this girl making memes. How
Right.
Right.
can you
And then
listen
we
to
have
my
to
podcast in good faith and then turn around and do this?
then there was the cherry picking of details. Everybody's like, well, I just have questions about XYZ. No one's bringing up that there was supposedly a witness that saw someone outside of her car. No
Mm-hmm.
one's
Man,
a man. No one's bringing up that the police responded within 5 minutes. How far could she have gotten in 5 minutes if she was on foot and just running away?
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
just there's a lot of things that the jump to assume the worst is just everybody seems to kind of want this to be a movie with a villain. There has to be a good guy and a bad guy. There's no in between. There's no gray areas. It's black and white.
So I'm gonna jump in and I'm not gonna play devil's advocate because the devil doesn't need one. But I'm going to, well, devil ain't real, but that's another whole thing. I read through some people's perspectives,
Mhm,
and here's where my empathy and understanding comes from. Right? They don't know what we know about black girls and women that go missing. They don't
mhm,
know all the stats and the figures and everything that we know. What we do know is community, though, right? And we
mhm,
know that in the how the media treats one of us, they treat all of us.
mhm,
And every time something happens to a black man by the police, we all feel it, right? We all
mhm,
are just like, that could have been my brother, that could have been my cousin. And that is the nature of being black in America, right? It's 42 million of us or whatever, but we always end up feeling like this is family. We get
mhm,
embarrassed by the foolish ones, right? We get
mhm,
mad at the ones that do harm. We feel celebration and praise for when it goes, like, we have this collective, right? And I think that because black girls and women so rarely get airtime and media attention, that folks were plugged in. They were
mhm.
just like, "Oh my god, like this is
yeah,
our Gabby Petito kind of thing." And remember,
Right.
we were talking about that before. There was actually a sister who went missing in the same circumstances as
Mhm,
Gabby Petito at that time, and nobody gave a damn about that, right? She ended up being found in the back of a car as well. But there was something about the fact that the media actually was showing this that I think brought people to be super invested, because it's like,
right.
how often do we hear anything like this, right? And I think what people were feeling was like, this is my sister, this is my little sister, this is my cousin, this is whatever. And the same traumatic response that we have when one of our sisters and cousins acts up, we'd be
Mhm.
like, I know your narrow behind didn't do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Right.
something there, right? And so I think for some people, it was like, I'm invested in this, and girl, your ass just ran somewhere. And I
Yes,
think that there's a spectrum of responses, because then there were the
yes.
people who were super actually concerned, had no critiques or whatever, that kind of turned and it's like, do you know how many of us go missing? Why would you do this? No, I don't expect this 25-year-old woman to walk around with the statistic that at least
Yeah.
60,000 Black girls and women are missing all the time. I don't expect her to know, the nuances of these things, or to even be thinking about any of that as she's doing whatever it is that she's doing. So for us to project that onto her is incredibly problematic. What I had, the
Right.
biggest issue that I had, was the people who were saying, this is why they don't believe us. That is
That's
absolutely not why they don't believe us. They don't
nope.
believe us because of misogynoir, because of this racism and this sexism that affects Black women, that you don't believe a damn thing we ever say. And there's
Mhm,
millions of us in this country. So for you to pick out one person and say that she's the reason that people don't believe us. They did it with Jussie Smollett too.
mhm,
You're the reason why queer people struggle with blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. These singular people are not the cause for that. Queer phobia is, racism is, sexism is, the denial of our personhood is the reason why people don't believe and don't want to hear things like this. And it's not our fault that we don't have a plethora of these stories in the news. I don't
mhm,
think that people would have been as affected if every single day that a Black girl and Black woman goes missing, we heard about it. If it was a part of our regular news, we'd be like, oh, damn, well, then we can focus on these other 6 people.
mhm.
But because it's so rare, I think people were just like, damn, our one shot at attention, and it happens to be like this, because we know what the racism means. The
Mhm.
racism means that the next time there's an opportunity for one to be propelled into the spotlight, the media is going to be reluctant because the media is fucking racist. Okay,
Right.
end rant.
I would have to add a caveat is that would make more sense, in regards to the social media reaction, if that the majority of those feelings came after we found out the additional information after the press release. A lot of what we saw, that vileness, that ugliness, was before she even returned home, or
Oh no,
as
it was
soon as she turned.
preemptive.
Yes, it
It was
was
a fear of being
preemptive.
embarrassed.
It Yeah, and then
There
there's
was a fear of Black people being embarrassed, and I think that they didn't know how to. A lot of people didn't know how to
express.
articulate that shit.
Right. And there
They were
was
like, "Ooh, girl, don't you better be
the
missing, because if you not,
right.
I think there was some of that. I'm not
And
defending any of this shit
yeah,
though.
there was
You
a
know,
fine line between people saying, I'm concerned about her. Some of the things aren't adding up, but I'm not jumping to conclusions. And then people using those things that weren't adding up and being immediately accusatory.
of
Because it's
course. Well,
fine
I
to
mean, she's a
question
Black
things. Yeah,
girl.
yeah. It's normal. It's fine to question things that don't make that just aren't, clicking for you because some important pieces are missing. That is fine. That is normal. That is part of critical thinking. But to immediately jump to, I don't fully understand this, that means she is lying, is where I have such a big problem.
So what happened? What did we
All right.
get on the other side of things?
So this information came out after at the most recent um, police press release. Their timeline after doing their investigation on July 11th, Carlee used her cell phone to search for information on whether payment is required for an Amber Alert. 2 days later, on July 13th, she conducted two searches related to Amber Alerts using her work computer. One of the searches was about the maximum age for the Amber Alert. She also searched the movie Taken and how to take money from a register without being caught. She researched the Birmingham bus station and a one-way bus ticket from Birmingham to Nashville, Tennessee. She claimed she was kidnapped by a white man with orange hair, forced over a fence and into an 18-wheeler truck, where she was blindfolded but not bound and could hear the sounds of a baby and a woman's voice. Detectives say she also told police that she was able to flee before being captured again. No physical or sexual contact was alleged. But on Sunday, she told police she was placed into another vehicle from which she successfully escaped by running through the woods until she emerged near her parents' home. Um, it was noticed that Carlee had a small cut on her lip, a torn shirt, and $107 in her right sock. She had stolen a bathrobe and other items belonging to her employers in the hours before she was reported missing. She also picked up food from a Greek restaurant and bought snacks at a Target store. When officers arrived at Interstate 459, they only saw her car idling with one door open and her phone, watch, and purse still inside. While the Greek food was still there, the snacks in the bathroom were not. A request to interview Carlee for a second time was not immediately granted. This is all we know as of right now.
You know what? Maybe I'm just a different person. But when I hear all of that, you know what it makes me think? What was that episode where we were talking about the little girl and we were like, she'd have packed up her stuff and put it in a
A little
satchel and
bundle.
she was ready
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
and she was ready to leave
Yeah.
and she was tired of home and she was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna get my stuff and go. Right?
Right.
You know, like that's what it makes me think of. The money in the sock,
Yep.
stealing the bathrobe, like kind of looking these things up.
Mhm.
I'm like, again, I'm trying to remember 25. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
remember 25, the last 3 years being in a pandemic. I'm trying to think of all the things that could be going through her mind or whatever. And of course, my mind immediately goes to what was happening in her life. Was her
Mhm.
boyfriend hurting her? Were her parents?
Yes.
I think like that. You guys
Right.
think like that's why we
Because
do
right.
this.
Because
And
people
she's a
don't run
nursing
from good
student. That's
situations.
stressful.
You said what, Nikki?
She's a nursing student. That's really stressful.
Oof. Yeah.
So having to
Yeah,
be
okay,
a
Sid, I
nursing
didn't know
student
that.
and you go to work, so you have a job outside of just going to school. There's all kinds of things that could be happening to you. Not to mention, this is all taking place in Jefferson County, Alabama. Jefferson County is notorious for being racist as shit in a lot of different ways. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Jefferson is where the residents sued the county for like racial gerrymandering,
Jeremy. Mhm.
which tells you that the racism goes way further than just like that surface white black thing. Like it really is ingrained there. So if I were a cop or if I were the chief of police in Hoover, Alabama, and a black woman goes missing on the side of an interstate in this racist ass town, I absolutely want to make her look like a fucking lunatic. I need people to believe.
Ooh,
I
facts.
There it is.
Facts.
I need people to
Facts.
believe that this woman is nuts and that she is lying and she's making up shit, and I don't want nobody to believe her. So at this
Ooh,
press
they don't want to hear that. They not gonna want to hear that.
no,
They not
Sorry.
gonna want to
when
hear
the
that.
when the police held this press conference and they're like, well, we can't confirm anything that she's saying. Just because you can't confirm it doesn't mean it didn't happen. You are the police. You are chronic liars. You are pathological liars. It's part of your job. You put it on every day like skin, like a suit.
And
You
we
lie.
know that
All you
they're
gotta do is
in we know
we
their
know that they're what?
investigations are nothing but skimming over some shit. They're
Absolutely.
yeah.
Not to mention when she reappeared, people were like, oh, well, at least the police did what they were supposed to do. What did they do? They
Yes.
didn't
What did
find
they
Please tell,
her.
do?
please tell me what resources were wasted.
They're like, oh, there were so many resources wasted and they wasted the cops' time. How do you know that? The police did not find that girl and deliver her back to her parents. She walked up to her parents' door.
Mhm. And if we
It
And
want
was
to
why
not
get
even
didn't the
into
police,
days.
if we want to get
wasn't
into
even two
wasted
days.
resources, let's talk about these police departments with their military equipment that is unnecessary. Let's
That's
talk
another
about how
thing.
much they're paying in overtime. Those are wasted resources.
How are you upset about a young black woman supposedly, quote unquote, wasting police resources for 49 hours, not even. Meanwhile, half your police force doesn't even live in the city that they work in. They're taking all of your taxpayer money to the next county over and spending their money there, buying homes there. They don't even get gas
Mm,
in your city. They go the next
mm,
county over to get, like, don't do that. So watching, I expect this type of stuff from white people, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Right.
mm-hmm.
Watching black people do that, watching black people like pick up white supremacist rhetoric and hurl it in Carlee Russell's direction because they feel like their thoughts and prayers were wasted. Like, if that was the case,
We
she
need to
could have kept
pause on that right there. We need to pause on that right there because that, to me, I quickly unfriended somebody. It's like she's like all the wasted prayers. First of all, you fake ass Christian. I'm not even gonna go on my fake ass
it.
Christian rant. But how is any prayer of yours ever wasted on anyone? That is not what prayer is about. Okay. So if you were praying for this person's safe return and you were super specific about that, she got home safe.
Right.
Bottom line, we don't even need to know. What we know is that nobody knew where she was for 2 days and she returned home. That's what you prayed for. That's what happened. But also, you're supposed to just be praying for her in general. You're supposed to be praying for the good. You're supposed to be praying proactively. You're supposed to be just praying for the world in general. You remember your nighttime prayers. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So to see these so-called Christians coming out and talking about they wasted their prayers on her, how is that even possible?
that
That
hurts my feelings.
really pissed me
Yeah.
off.
It hurts my
And
feelings to know that somebody could actually fix their face to say, my grace and good thoughts about you were wasted.
right. And then
Wasted?
I have to think about her loved ones. See, her parents were compelled to come forward and do that first interview because people were making up these outlandish theories, and they're like, and to hear people say, well, she lied. How? She was missing. How is she lying?
She
What
hasn't
did
even said
she
anything
say?
yet.
Exactly, she can't lie, she can't say anything.
She still hasn't said anything as of
Exactly.
this recording right now, right? As of Thursday, July 20th, 2023 at 7:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have not heard anything from
No.
her. Now that
Mhm.
that may change, but Nikki, your point in, and I had not thought about this, and if I haven't thought about it, then I know most of these niggas have not thought about. Excuse my language. This idea that we already know when police shoot people. One of
Yeah.
the first things they talk about on social media is how police cover for themselves. They lie, they make up whatever story. The media will run with whatever the cops say as truth, and we just go along with that. You mean to tell me they invested more resources into looking into her internet search history than they did in being able to bring her
Mhm.
back? Right? So now
Mhm.
they know everything about her and they were just looking, and it's almost like they were looking to disprove. They
Right.
were looking for that.
Right, because we got to get into. They knew she was missing that evening, but said, "Oh, we will start the search the next morning."
Was it
What the
even the next month? I
hell?
thought it was like the next. Yeah, it was like what are you waiting for? And we talk about this all the
Exactly.
time. This idea that people believe that, oh, you got to wait 48 hours to report something. No, you don't.
Mhm.
You can report it immediately.
Mhm.
Put it out there immediately.
So there was something in the press conference that just, it really had me 38 hot. Like, I mean, my whole back was like warm when I was listening to it. So the chief of police in Hoover, Alabama said, and it was the way that he said it that just had me just twisted. He said that she uses an app called Life 360. I had no idea that this existed before, but it's basically, it tracks everywhere that you go and everything that you do via your phone.
Yeah, I used to use it with Garvey.
Okay, that makes sense. So she has Life 360 app on her phone. And he says that in the amount of time that she said she was following this like phantom toddler or whatever, that she traveled 600 yards,
Right.
which is, that's a long way. That's like 5 or 6 football fields. But Life 360 is very clear about saying, our location is not always accurate.
Mhm.
Cannot use your Life 360 data for insurance claims, police reports, none of that. So why are you during a press conference telling us about this Life 360 data, knowing if she needed to use that because somebody stole her car or something like that, you wouldn't accept it. So
Right.
why are you using it to try to discredit her now? Like, don't play with me. Don't.
And what's interesting about that is that, you know, so here comes my true crime, mind. When it comes to trafficking, you know who one of the main figures are that play into that? The motherfucking police. Okay?
Mhm.
Like they are huge traffickers.
Not to
Mhm.
So
mention, I'm gonna tell y'all like a real quick personal story. When I was 21 years old, I was driving my homegirl's car and I got pulled over. And I literally was not doing anything, I promise. I was going over a bridge, and I remember this. I was only going 45 miles an hour because that bridge, it was windy out. And when you're on a bridge and it's windy, it like pushes your car a little bit. And it made me so nervous that I slowed down and I was going 45 miles an hour over this bridge. The speed limit was 50. So it wasn't like I was going 45 and a 70. That
Mhm.
wasn't, 45 and a 50 is not crazy. So this cop pulls me over and he asked for my license and registration. So this is not my car, but I have the registration and insurance is in the glove box. I'm gonna get my license out of my bag. It's back here behind the seat on the floor. Don't shoot me. Mind you, I'm 21, so this is 2005. um, whew, aging myself a little bit. But yeah, so this is the early 2000s, and I'm like, don't shoot me. So I reach, get my stuff, give it to him, and I'm like, what did I do? I had already had, a relationship with police at this point. So I already don't like cops. But I'm like, what did I do? Like, what did you pull me over for? And he was like, don't worry about that. I'm sorry, what? Hold up. I know you lying. So he gives me my stuff back, tells me to get out the car, has me do like just like this fake pared down version of a sobriety test, like a sobriety field test. I had not been drinking. It was really hot outside. I don't really like to drink when it's really hot anyway because it makes me sick. So I'm like, I am sober. I don't, do drugs or anything like that. And he's like, put your hands against the car. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna need you to call a female officer. I don't know what you think you about to do, but if you feel like you about to arrest me, call somebody else. Because I'm standing on a dark bridge at night and it's just me and this white male cop who's like 6'4". When I tell you I was absolutely terrified, I thought he was gonna throw me over the bridge. That's like my first thought in my mind was he's gonna throw me over.
yeah.
And he did like rough me up. He did assault me. Physically, not sexually. And I was really like shook up after that. My homegirl's like, yo, you're supposed to come right back on my car. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm on my way. Here I come. I don't even know how to explain this to you, but here I come. And that would not be the only time in my life where a cop did something similar like that to me. But when I was listening to this whole story about Carlee Russell, I thought about people like Daniel Holtzclaw, who would wait
Yes.
until he could pull a black woman over on the highway and he would rape her.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I
I
I
think
think about that kind of stuff because I know that if it happens to somebody like me, it could happen to literally anybody. It does not matter who you are, what you look like, none of that, because that's how cops are. They
right.
can do whatever they want to do, but if you're black, oh, you got a real sharp target on you.
I immediately thought of our guest on an episode, missing black girl.
Yes.
She described being sexually assaulted by a police officer. She
Yep.
described being criminalized as a child for being trafficked.
Yes.
Like, we have stories, we have evidence, there are statistics that the cops aren't the good guys.
No.
So this the one time black folks tend to jump to the side of the police is when something happens to a black woman.
Yes, and that is really, kind of peeking in again. I haven't been on there too much because I'm actually 100% tired of you niggas. But peeking in and kind of seeing some of this stuff, it's just like the vitriol, the meanness, the absolute negativity, this disgusting, vile, as you said, Nikki, like way that people want to crucify her. Right? They want her dead now. They're talking about she needs to
Yeah.
go to jail. She needs to have whatever's coming to her, blah, 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 for wasting people's time. 2 days. 2 days this that there was focus on this girl for 2 whole days, and the police didn't even find her. She ended up coming home herself, and people are saying that she needs to be jailed for wasting resources and things like that. First of all, I thought y'all hated the police. I thought y'all were against the
Well,
system. I thought it was fuck 12. I thought it was defund the police. I thought it
Mm.
was all these things. But now you want her under a jail, right? In this incarceration nation that we have. And let's take that back to the fast black girls, okay? How you always want to assume that a black girl is devious, she's luring, she's trying to trick people, she's trying to do all those things. Let's talk about the ways that you never were going to believe what she says anyway. No, it does not matter what story Carlee Russell tells any of us. No one is ever going to believe it. You people are not
Mhm.
going to believe it for the simple fact that she's a 25-year-old black woman from the South and you don't like her. You don't even know her, but you know that you're not supposed to like her or believe her or trust her because that's how you've been socialized to think. Now I'm reading this and I'm hearing these details and I'm like, okay, this is bizarre. I'm a mental health social worker, retired mental health social worker. I have provided therapy and counseling to people for years. I'm immediately thinking something's wrong with her.
yeah.
Something's not right. I don't know whether it's a mental health issue or something at home or whatever. You're Googling, Amber Alerts. You're Googling how to get money, how to do these things, or whatever the situation is. Sounds like she was all over the place. She didn't know if she wanted to stage something or actually run away. There was so much going on there, and it's so scattered that I'm just like, my first thought is, this is somebody who needs some help for
Yeah.
whatever it is. I don't even know what's wrong. But instead of thinking that way, instead of people thinking, wow, our young sis that we cared about for 2 whole days might need some help and some support. Instead of let's look at her family, let's look at the boyfriend. Has he ever beat on her?
Right.
Has there anything happened? Did she maybe recently have an abortion that he forced her to? If y'all want to come up with conspiracy theories, I got mine too.
Right.
Yeah.
Could
But,
she
but the
become
fact of the
from
matter,
a hyper religious, very strict household?
whatever.
There's so
The
many
the
different
fact is that there's
options.
so many different things that you could be thinking of, and yet so many people, including people listening to this right now, automatically went to the negative, and we are challenging you to think about why that was. Why didn't you think of all the other possibilities and the grace and the empathy that is extended to white girls, to white people, to black boys, to black men? We want to come up with the positive. And a lot of them fools that y'all be going up for are abusers, are rapists, are
Mhm.
all kinds of things. And you still go up for them when the police shoot them. So why is it that you can't find it in your heart to think that maybe something else happened here?
Right. And then I want to touch on the silencing tactics that anybody that said a kind word, a supportive word about Carlee Russell is being met with, oh, you still want to believe all black women? You still believe all black women? We should, like, it's gotten to, like, I'm never going to feel bad for believing a black woman from jump. Never.
Right.
You can't shame me for
No,
believing
no,
black women. But
no.
the way people are jumping on anybody that showed her any semblance of support to have this gotcha moment when we ain't even got the full picture to have a gotcha moment
Two
is
days.
disturbing.
2 days.
Two days.
I keep thinking about my statements about how the police lie, right? And people are like, oh, she lied. I knew she lied. I can't believe y'all thought she was telling the truth. I'm sorry. So you believe the police?
Hmm.
So like let's say she lied, okay? Let's go ahead and do that. But you believe the police? And let's say that all of these terrible things is really what happened and she had these like really negative intentions. Again, think about why somebody might want to do that. I have a couple friends who are doctors, and they were all talking about how it's common for some people when they are training to be in like the medical field, whether it's nursing, doctor, whatever. Sometimes they can, develop schizophrenia, or they, have some like, psychosis um, issues where it just happens because they're under a lot of stress, or they are, overworked, they are exhausted, they're not sleeping, they're not resting, they're malnutrition. There's all these other things happening at one time that causes this complete mental breakdown. That could have happened. I don't know. I am not a doctor. I cannot say. Never met the girl. But I think of all these different scenarios that could have happened that are not just I would like to cause chaos. And that's exactly where a lot of people went, was just that she had nothing better to do than to just start shit. And that does not sit right with my spirit. And it bothers me that instead of thinking, is she safe? Is she okay? People thought, wow, she's horrible. I cannot believe this. Even right now, today, I don't know that she's safe. People go back to their abusers' homes all the time. And I'm not saying that her parents are abusive. I don't know these people, but they could be. And we've covered multiple stories where the little girls who are missing in our episodes are missing because their parents were not good to them. They were their tormentors. And sometimes those homes happen to be, they appear to be loving, they appear to be, good people, wholesome folks. We don't know what she's going through. But the fact that people just took this and went all the way to left field with it and made it something so negative and nasty and so vile, so heartless and cold, I am disgusted. I'm just very disappointed. And like you said, FJ, like I really do challenge people to just think about this and let it sit, let it marinate, like let it sit
What
in
if
your
she
gut.
did, what if she did all this to bring attention to something else? What if she did this because there's some other shit going on in her life that she wants the police to look into?
Hmm. There's
Could be.
just
I mean,
so
there's so
because it
many
because it
things
all
that could be the possibilities.
right, and like the immediate conclusions that we come to, it's like, well, not conclusions, but the theories we're coming up with, it's there's two sides to them. There's the ones that come from empathy, and then there's the one that's coming from just abject hatred of black women, and that's what we're seeing.
Right.
And it's one of those things, like you would think she has materially or physically harmed
Harmed
other
people. Yeah.
people. The only people that have seemingly suffered in this are the people closest to her because they were worried. Y'all ain't give her no money. She didn't come and couch surf on your couch. She didn't come rob you. Like, your life is no better or worse for either knowing about her or not knowing about her. You can go away. You can forget about her now. Like,
Hmm.
I don't understand why people are holding on to it. So if they fully believe she lied, you can let this go. You don't have to do no more thoughts and prayers. You don't have to concern yourself with it. Why do you want to hold on to this so badly?
Yeah.
Is a question I need some people to ask themselves.
And I will ask people, with all those thoughts and prayers and good intentions, why not redirect them to one of the other 60 plus thousand missing black women and girls that are
Yeah.
out there? Why not that donate some of your resources to helping to find them donate your prayers and your grace and all that other stuff to them because they could use it too. Bottom line. But yeah, so we wanted to just bring this episode. We've had folks showing us love, right? That people are still now just discovering our podcasts, and we are 3 seasons in, and we love that. We really appreciate the positive feedback we have gotten. We are really looking forward to season 4 and continuing to bring you what it is that we do, and we don't stop. Shout out to Nikki and Asa, who recently appeared on the Griot with Mark Lamont Hill to discuss our podcast and kind of this idea of like how we respond when Black women and girls go missing. They did a great job on the show. Shout out to y'all for that. Shout out to everybody that reaches out to us. Earlier this summer, we did a thing with Lifetime related to the movie that they came out with, Black Girl Missing, which I think we need to do an episode on that, like a special episode on that whole experience
I'm
about
with
the
it.
movie Black Girl Missing. But we've had some stuff going on. We've been percolating in the background, and we are going to be coming to you. So thank you all for tuning in and for listening to us and showing us love all these years that we've been doing this, and we will continue to do this. This is important work, and we can only hope that you listen to this episode and pause for a second and maybe check yourself and maybe understand where we're coming from and why it is we do this thing. All right. So again, I'm Feminista Jones.
I'm Asa.
And I'm Nikki.
And we are the hosts of Black Girl Missing. Take care, y'all. Be safe.